I want to connect right now to Pavni Mittal. She's joining us live from New York City. Pavni, what more can you tell us? What we are given to understand right now, the suspect in question is at large. There is a clear, understandable sense of panic. What more can you add?
So right now, the details are a bit sketchy. We are picking up from media reports that about a dozen people are being treated in hospitals. We don't have any details of whether someone died. What we do know is that they are looking for someone. They believe he was someone who was dressed as a transit worker, someone who probably works in the train station in an orange vest and a big man. There are reports that suggest that the police are investigating whether he actually fired at people from inside the train. They believe that there was a lot of smoke. Right now, there are no active bombs or any detonators being found, but there is something that they're looking into, that whether he did, put something off over there that caused a lot of smoke. And of course, there is panic within New York City because there have been cases of rising crime, but something like this has not happened in a while. There has been a lot of rise in hate crime, and that has sort of reinforced the fact that the pandemic has had devastating impacts on the city. One is, of course, economic. The other is that it has exacerbated conditions that lead to rise in crime, rising unemployment, rising cases of drug overdose and mental illness, and rising hate crime, especially against people of color, people of Asian descent, directly linked to the pandemic. Now, I am actually going to be heading over there. There are no trains that are going into Brooklyn. To give you a sense of where this place is, it is deep inside the borough of Brooklyn. We all know Times Square, so about like 45 minutes to an hour from that big landmark. So really very close to what is widely regarded as one of the centers of the world.
Pavni, I know you want to get down as close to the scene of crime and what really happened, but I want to ask you, for the benefit of our viewers, can you string together the sequence of events? We do know it happened at 8:30 a.m. That's rush hour, where most, people who work in Manhattan, the financial district, actually live in the suburbs and use the tube or the trains to come into the city. So the timing was crucial, but can you string together for us the sequence of events here and what went down this morning?
So basically what we do know is that about, like you said, 8:30, just before, offices begin. And a lot of people are now going into offices. That is one thing that New York has done, people are returning to offices. There's a hybrid work model. And what we do know is that there was a lot of smoke and people poured out of the station. There were gunshots that were heard. Apparently, 5 people have been shot. Many of them are being treated and many of them were injured and are being treated at hospitals nearby. We know that the area there has been cordoned off. Trains into Brooklyn, especially from Manhattan, are jammed. You cannot get in there. I will be taking an Uber. I don't know how long that's going to take because it is a long drive and there is a lot of traffic over there. So hopefully when I see you next, I will be there and getting your ground report of what's actually going on scene.
One quick question before we let you go, and we're hoping to see you soon, Pavni. Is there now a terror angle that is being investigated? The FBI has also reached the crime scene.
So what we do know is that they're not, ruling out anything. They are, I think, more of the concern right now is just rising gun violence. They do think this is possibly a lone wolf. As I said earlier, there have been many conditions that were pre-existing in the U.S. and in India and in New York that have been exacerbated by the pandemic. Unemployment, mental illness issues, rising hate crime. So those are also various angles that they will be looking at. I think it all comes down to whether they find the suspect. When they speak to people who were injured right now, the investigations have just begun, and we don't have too many details that I can tell you that we surely know about.
Pavni, mass shootings in New York and incidents of, mass firing is something which has been regularly reported. Maybe, this has come after a while. But will it put the spotlight back on gun violence and gun laws in your country? Because that's something which has been talked about. And the president of America did also speak about it 2 weeks ago.
Yes, so the issue of guns, let's leave violence for now. Guns is a deeply constitutional and a very political issue in the country that comes up every election, it is the right to bear arms is a constitutional right. It's called the Second Amendment and is a very uniquely American thing. Like people like you and me who grew up in India, when I moved to the US, I came here as a student. I remember my roommate telling me, should we have a gun? But New York has some strict rules around it. And I was just like, wait, what? So it is deeply American, and it goes down to history where, the country was founded on the belief of complete freedom. So the right to bear arms is one of the many freedoms. But rising cases of gun violence in the country for many, many years has become a huge issue. In fact, many lawmakers have been trying to pass stricter background checks. Some have even tried to restrict the right to bear arms. But, we see these laws play out differently across states. So, for example, in the South, which is deeply conservative, stronghold of the Republicans, places like Texas, I can walk into a restaurant, into a classroom with a gun, no questions asked. In New York, though, there are restrictions. You can't just openly carry guns. It's called conceal and carry. So there are some strict rules over there. However, what does happen in New York is, this is a global city. There is deep inequality. There is, again, rising unemployment. Drug overdose, again, is a major issue. So those are other issues that basically lead to larger violence. And because people have easy access to guns, it leads to increase in gun violence.
Pavni, does it also raise the question, because a lot of our viewers would also be surprised that there is no frisking in your subway, which would possibly in India, metro stations, there's no frisking, there's no metal detectors. Will there be a conversation on that as well? Because then you have, these gun laws, the gun culture, the violence is going high, and on top of it, where your metro stations or your subway stations are concerned, even basics of frisking or metal detectors are not there.
Yeah, in fact, I think, frisking and metal detectors are probably more Indian. Like, for example, if you go to Mumbai, when I used to live there, I remember going to the local train without, you can just walk in, the same thing. The other thing in subway stations here is just the volume of people and the size of the subway. The New York subway is one of the oldest subways in the world. It's also one of the few that run 24 hours, though I would really recommend someone to probably not take it after midnight because, again, it's not very safe. And recently, there have been many conversations about rising crimes. We've seen, hate crimes have become very common. People have been pushed in front of trains. People have been stabbed. There's a lot of, crime that does take place on subway stations. But in a city as big as New York, that is really the only way to travel. It's a big city. Millions of people live here. People come here for work. There are tourists here. So the subway is like the city of Mumbai, is the lifeline. It's not very clean, and there is crime, but you got to do what you got to do, sort of a situation there.
All right, Pavni, I'm going to let you go, and I'm hoping to connect with you very soon as you reach the crime scene. Pavni is going to be taking an Uber. There are no tubes, there are no trains working. Thank you there for joining us. I'm going to put the focus back on what we know right now.